Hey guys, I am Big and Scary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay from Team Echo Gaming, this time featuring in our bottom right hand side Echo's Clockwork, our Grandmaster's Red Zerg, and in the bottom left we have NRSEC Wellmu, our blue Protoss. I know Clockwork's in Grandmasters. You can only assume that Wellmu's in Grandmasters. This is on Heart of the Swarm, so the ladders might be a little funky, and you can find yourself in Grandmasters if you're not really in Grandmasters, and you could probably find yourself in Masters if you're supposed to be in Grandmasters, but that's okay. It's the beta for a reason. Super early scout coming out from Wellmu. It looks like he's probably going to throw it on a pylon on the low ground for the Forge Fast Expand, which is very popular right now with Protoss versus Zerg. And Protoss versus Zerg, what an awesome matchup. Am I right? Oh my goodness, it's so cool. You got so many different toys for both players. And the metagame is just constantly evolving. You're constantly finding a unit that you had no idea could work in this scenario or be nearly as effective as you thought it would be. Frankly, whenever I read the description of an Oracle, I was like, I don't know, man. It takes forever to get so much energy so that you can't really harass constantly or anything. It's not really going to be harassment. It's just like a one-and-done bomber. But my goodness, does it ravage mineral lines. And it's super effective, and it's super cool. It's basically Squirtle to Charmander, am I right? And speaking of incredibly effective, those Mutalisks right now are dominating pretty much any matchup. Zergling Muta is so cheap, so fast, and a good Zerg player can make it work for him like no one else's business. Wellmu making it work for him, doing some harassment with the probe, trying to make mine from the mineral field. As long as he doesn't actually pick up a mineral patch, he can lock down one of these mineral patches indefinitely. Oh no, a little bit of a slip there. Maybe he meant to do that. I don't know. Actually picking up the mineral so he can't really mine anymore. Pool first coming down from Clockwork, making motions like he wants to throw down a hatchery. He does almost have the money right now. Chasing out with a drone. Oh, nice fake there, making it so Wellmu thought his probe was just being chased by an over-aggressive drone. Instead, that drone was following him out and was going to fake it, and then just broke away at the last second to throw down that hatchery. A really, really nicely done play, because otherwise Wellmu could probably block that hatchery for an indefinite period of time, really just messing up the timing that Clockwork really wanted to do. A nice extractor trick there to get one extra drone out there just to kickstart that economy just a little bit more. Wellmu was going Nexus first. Hatchery is, Forge is almost done. We do have the gateway just now starting, so that wall off is looking more and more sturdy by the second. Still a decent sized gap, probably going to get shored up by a cybernetics core as soon as that gateway is done. Overlord flying by from Clockwork really doesn't have to worry about anything by way of anti-air, because the only thing that could shoot up was his photon cannon, and that's stationary, so still no gas for Wellmu just yet. But I mean, he just grabbed his Nexus. It's not even saturated yet. He's got better things to spend that money on. Third hatchery going up for Clockwork, so he is really going to be aggressive when it comes to his economy. And his saturation at the main is looking just fine. Still hasn't grabbed his gas. He's going to be going pretty much whole hog until he gets all those hatcheries fully saturated. I don't think he's going to be making motions like he wants to throw down a Roach Warren just yet. Hasn't worked on that speed just yet. He's got more important things to spend his money on, and a little bit of money he's got, actually. So that hatchery is going to be finishing in just a couple of seconds, but it doesn't look like either player is making motions like they want to be aggressive. And that's great. That's great news for us, because I like macro games, and it's good news for both players, because Wellmu has thrown down two of his assimilators, is working on his third assimilator. What is he going to spend all this money on? All this gas on, really? He's got 100 gas. Single cybernetics core, no gateways, no robo, no Stargate, no Twilight Council. It's going to be something in just a couple of seconds, and there's only a handful of places he can throw it. There goes another pylon. Does he have a pylon up here by the main? Not at all. So yeah, he's very limited in the areas that he can actually throw down. And remember, Clockwork has actually seen that. He's seen that there's only a handful of places that this tech could be. So he'll probably be suiciding in another Overlord in just a couple of seconds. Just because he hasn't seen anything. Whenever he did that initial flyby, there wasn't gas being tapped, I don't think. Let me actually see. Yeah, check out the mini-map. There's no gas being grabbed just yet, so Clockwork is very much playing in the dark, and that makes him nervous. And this is why, because you really don't know what's going to be coming out of the main base. Stargate is being built, so Clockwork's going to have to deal with either Oracles or maybe just a Phoenix or Void Ray harassment sort of thing. As things are now, the only thing that he's going to have to deal with by way of harassment is this single Stalker coming out from Whelmu, poking at the Overlord, but being poked back by the Queen. That Overlord might go down if Clockwork's not aggressive with his Queen, and it looks like indeed it's going to get at least very much into the red. No, it will go down. A decent win for Whelmu, actually. I'm very surprised that he allowed that to happen. I mean, that Queen could have been more aggressive. The Zerglings were coming out. I really don't feel like Whelmu would want to step on the creep and actually start opening himself up to that sort of harassment. The Mothership Core is out, speaking of harassment, is making her ways over to the main base of Clockwork. Clockwork does have a nice positioned Overlord, and right now the only thing on the production tab was an Oracle. For a time being. Is the Oracle out already? No. Still just the first one, but Chrono boosting it out with a second one on the production tab. It looks like this harassment is going to be hitting Clockwork like a ton of bricks. Still no static defenses in this area, no anti-air at all, so going to be relying on the Queen, and that Queen is actually very, very decent against the Oracle pound for pound. The Oracle definitely wants to be hitting workers instead of the Queen, and if the Queen's there to, kind of deal with the shenanigans from the Oracle, then it can really buy some of that energy. It can kind of cost that energy, and in turn cost a lot of kills. We do see a Spore Crawler being constructed, several Spore Crawlers, 3 of them on the production tab just a second ago, and those Spore Crawlers are really going to help Clockwork defend his mineral line. We have 63 workers over 50 right now, very much in the lead as far as minerals and gas income, but here comes the Queen thrown down into that Chrono Sphere, slowing it down very, very much. The Oracle taking a little bit of hull damage while it's trying to retreat. No, turning around, getting itself really far into the red. The Mothership Core taking a little bit of hull damage herself. The Queen backing away. Let's see how successful that was. 4 workers killed is all she gets, and poor Whelmu really not pulling out the stops, doesn't want to try his luck at any of the other expansions. And this is what I was talking about, man. There's no energy left at all in that Oracle. It's going to have to go all the way back home, rest and relax, and rejuvenate all that energy. And that makes the Oracle very much a one-and-done unit. You can try again on that harassment, but once it's exposed, it's pretty much done. So yeah, it's incredibly powerful, and it can absolutely ravage mineral lines, but if you can shut down that first shot, then its effectiveness is really, really limited later on. However, it was very effective for Whelmu in the form of scouting. He saw that spire was indeed being constructed, and if you guys don't believe me, I think it was just barely within range. It was. So there goes the spire being constructed, and Clockwork's going to be able to get mutas out. Going to really be able to lock down the air, and Whelmu's going to be answering back with some Void Rays, but that's not going to stop 15 Mutalisks coming out on the field right now. The Zergling's just buying time. I don't feel like Clockwork's going to be able to shut down this third in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't have the ground control at all. These Zerglings are not going to be enough. We did see 2 Evo Chambers just finishing up outside of Clockwork's main base, and there he goes, starting off with the +1/+1. So those Zerglings are going to be more and more aggressive later on. Speaking of aggressive, Whelmu moving in with his Oracle, but I think those, to finish my thought, those Zerglings are going to have to rely on the Mutalisks to create openings for them, and Clockwork does not have a single opening for that Oracle. Oh no, the Mutalisks exposing themselves to that Oracle just in time for the Oracle to die a terrible, terrible death. And we got 4 Void Rays on the field, 2 Phoenixes on the production tab, a second gateway being added on, along with 5 warp gates back at home. So Whelmu's infrastructure has definitely gotten more impressive, but this is pretty impressive too. All those Mutalisks pushing in, not a lot of anti-air here, taking down that Mothership Core. However, the Warp Prisms pushing in using their Prismatic Alignment, which is kind of weird because doesn't it do plus to armored? Yeah, it's +6 versus armor. Is that going to help against mutas? I don't believe so. Yeah, they're not armored. Okay, cool. So those Phoenixes are definitely going to help against those Mutalisks, though. Oh, and that's going to be absolutely fantastic. The overcharge going down on the Nexus. Oh, and a nice snipe from Clockwork, closing the distance between those Phoenixes, exposing those Mutalisks to a little bit of extra damage from the Photon overcharge on the Nexus, and a good control there by Whelmu, warping in all of those Zealots just far back enough so that he could get the concave necessary to fight back those Zerglings. Really couldn't lock down the choke because the Zerglings were already there, but realizing he couldn't warp them in there, he just kind of worked them back a little bit and closed that front door with warping and Zealots. fantastic micro there from both players. Clockwork, major win in sniping down those Phoenixes, getting back a little bit more air control, and Wellmu shutting the door with those Zealots in an absolute clutch play. +1/+1 is almost done, so Clockwork's army is going to be increasingly intimidated, 168 over 154. But speaking of intimidating, this death ball has continued to grow, but I think Wellmu is stuck in between two different unit compositions. He really wants to be a ground control person. He's relying a lot on cheap gateway units, but then he's also got these Void Rays, but those Void Rays are not going to be very effective if they're tethered to the main army because of the hypermobility of the Mutalisks. If either of those unit those components, the gateway army or the Void Ray army, breaks off from the main one, these Mutalisks could take them in a straight-on-straight fight, and I think we're going to see that. Clockwork just taking out one or two of those Phoenixes, and unfortunately for him, Wellmu repositioning very quickly. Oh no, but this is it! Oh, turning around, Clockwork sniping again those two Phoenixes, and man, that Phoenix count just cannot catch a break. Again, the Phoenix count is down to 0. 4 Void Rays. Clockwork poking in one more time, but he really doesn't want to engage both assets of the anti-air from Wellmu. Wellmu has a nice number of Stalkers. He's got a good number of Void Rays, and together that is enough to decimate the Mutalisk's numbers that Clockwork has out right now. And Clockwork only has +1 on the weapons. +1/+1 is done on the Zerglings, taking in plenty of Banelings, which is really going to help. 25 Banelings, really going to help against those Zealots as well as the Stalkers. So really, Clockwork just needs to kind of poke and prod and push Wellmu into overextending himself away from those from the protective chokes of his own base, and that's exactly what he's doing right now. He's kiting Wellmu away, kiting him into the mineral patches, and now that he's stuck on the ramp, here comes Clockwork pushing in with a fantastic double whammy of the Zerglings holding them in place, and then the Banelings trundling in, doing quite a lot of damage. Wellmu with a clutch blink of all of his Stalkers away, leaving the Zealots to die, but now that that blink has been expired, half of the Stalkers go down from the follow-through of all those Banelings, and then with the significantly less number of Stalkers and no Void Rays left to support them, it looks like Clockwork's going to be able to take care of all that anti-air, pushing down to take out the third, and I think Wellmu's going to have to tap out because he just cannot amass the sheer number of Stalkers or any form of anti-air to answer back to those Mutas. We had 10 more Mutas on the way, and look at that flight of Mutas. Oh, it's just majestic. Absolutely majestic. Fantastic play from Clockwork right here. And you know what? We saw that right here whenever he did that kind of clever play with the drone following out the probe, and then the probe continuing onward because the probe thought he was going to get attacked by the drone, and then the drone broke off at the last second to build that hatchery, and that was that mind game. It was the exact same mind game that Clockwork played. It was right here. He's like, hey, you can chase me all the way up here. My Mutalisks are weak. They take quite a lot of damage, and if you can just score one big engagement, you can lock down this whole harassment. Come and get me. And that's exactly what Wellmu did. He was greedy. He followed through with it, overextended himself up into this death trap, and then whenever he finally realized he was so far away from the third and turned around, all those Zerglings and Banelings were waiting for him right here to hold him in place so that the Mutalisks could swing in from the north side, the Zerglings from the south side, and then the Banelings just kind of tethered around either side and eventually just encapsulated and decimated all those Zealots. Great play by Wellmu to blink away with his Stalkers, but the end result was he had lost half of his anti-air already, and Clockwork had an impressive number of Mutalisks to begin with. So not a lot you can do there. Not a lot at all you can do there. Definitely a Grandmaster style game, though. This was absolutely fantastic. And you know what? That's indicative of Team Echo Gaming. So if you guys like to see more of their replays, stop by this YouTube channel again, and be sure to check out their website shown here. I am Big and Scary. I will see you guys later. Bye.